Mythologicals have been the stuff of entertainment in India. The first Indian film was Raja Harishchandra. In 1987, the Ramayan TV series brought the mythological into people's homes, and some say also aided the BJP's movement to build a temple in Ayodhya. But recent attempts to film the epic have been unsuccessful. Last year, we saw the colossal failure of a 700 crore blockbuster, Adi Purush. Another Ramayan project is in the works with an equally massive budget. And joining me to talk about Bollywood's epic foray are Mayank Shekhar, Saurabh Verma, and my colleague Geeta Dutta here in the studio. Mayank, big screen spectacles are here to stay, right? After all those back-to-back blockbusters that we saw last year. But what's troubling Project Ramayan? Why is that not getting off the ground? We've been hearing some...
Well, I mean, you did mention that, the mythologicals are not working.
Yeah.
I think you were referring only to one particular film, which is Adi Purush, right?
Yes.
And there are too many things that were not going right with the movie, including its own politics and all those things that they got into trouble for.
Right.
But you have a film like Hanuman that came just a few weeks back that did incredibly well. It was, of course, from down south.
Yep.
And a lot of people flocked to the theaters to watch that movie. I'm being told that when the same film went on the OTT, there weren't that many clicks. So what's very clear is that mythological, as a fantastical genre, is a big screen genre. It lends itself really well to the bigger canvas. And it does not surprise me one bit that they're giving Ramayan another shot with an equally big budget and a huge star cast.
Yes.
But I mean, what will be there to be seen is the moment you do go big screen, the expectations get higher because you're comparing any subject of this nature to the level of fantasies that we've seen with an LOTR, like a Lord of the Rings trilogy, or even if it's an OTT, like a Game of Thrones, that becomes at some level the benchmark. To achieve that, you need a certain level of expertise, skill, besides just the budget, of course.
Absolutely. Saurabh, this project Ramayan that we've been hearing, it's increasingly beset by all kinds of disputes. The producer has been replaced. There's stuff over the talk about the costumes not being right. The budget needs to go up, and this comes at a time when they've already blocked the dates of the stars. The studios have been booked. I mean, I think it's a little too late in the day to be, changing horses mid-course. What's your take on this project?
So I think first and foremost, yes, obviously there's just one failure and there are a lot of successes. Yes. But the responsibility of making such an epic is huge.
Right.
So, and it's a creative process. It can't start from a point A to point B. So obviously the creators are rethinking certain steps. Right. And rightly so, because of the scale. And today, this project would not just be catering to a Delhi or a UP or a Bombay or this thing. It's catering to the whole universe. I mean, the entire world can see it, and they will see India in the way we would want to show it.
Yes.
So I guess the responsibility is huge, and that's what the director Nitish Tiwari is also aware of. So I think that's the reason why people are rethinking and working on things. Is what I feel.
Right. Geeta, this Adi Purush thing, I think that's the elephant in the room, right?
Yes.
I mean, as Mayank was saying, that it wasn't a particularly well-made film. I guess that's the reason it didn't really work. So it's not so much about the mythologicals working or not working. It's a badly made film and it didn't click with the audiences. But why are the Project Ramayan makers still focused on it? I mean, they obviously weren't too bothered about what happened to Adi Purush.
So Sandeep, actually, taking from what they've been saying, we've had mythological films literally even before the partition. They used to use mythological films to send messages, how to fight the British and sort of protest and stuff like that. So we've seen that, and they've been extremely successful, including two very hit big serials that sort of revived the whole thing all over again. I think everybody knows their story, and I think everybody who tries to redo it wants to, take it a notch up.
That's right.
I think Adi Purush went really horribly wrong because they kept insisting, they didn't call it Ramayan, they called it Adi Purush, and they thought they will say, okay, it's like Ramayan, but it's not. And they tried to give it a very plebeian, for me, I didn't like
the
dialogues and everything was
We're little
terrible.
realizing how deep deeply, rooted the original Ramayana
and
series
also they
work.
try to do what he said, Lord of the Rings meets, the Gorilla, the film that they had, and Ramayana. So it was just very, I thought it was quite crazy to even see the
South
trailer.
Indian film, Hanuman, has seemed to have nailed it. I mean, it was an incredibly successful film.
Sandeep, we are talking about the obvious ones, right?
Yes.
But you forget Bahubali was also takeoff from Ramayana, and so was Hum Saath Saath Hain, which has actually nothing to do with mythological films, but it's there. I think everybody wants to take it a notch up, and I think what they want to probably, since one is reading a lot about VFX here, I think where what they're trying to do, and I think hence the cost factor, is that they want to make it give that experience, like Mayank was saying, this is a theatre experience film story, so maybe they want to up the thing for the people who have now become the world citizen. They're seeing world cinema. So I have a feeling it's probably that's where they're getting stuck.
Absolutely, but it's a little, as I said, it's a little too late in the day. They've already blocked the dates, the
sequence is a bit haywire.
It's gone haywire. But Mayank, while we're talking about the Ramayana, there's this other eternal project that we've been talking about for the longest time. That's the Mahabharat, in Bollywood, a Hindi remake of, or rather a Hindi film on the Mahabharata. That's not really taken off, right? But there's been plenty of people who've attempted it. I think Rajkumar Santoshi was the last person somewhere in 20 years back. What's the status on that? Are there any filmmakers seriously looking at a Mahabharata as well?
Well, I think we got very close to it, Sandeep, and this was about 3 years back. I may be mistaken in terms of 2 or 3 years back.
Yes.
Roughly around 2017 or so, when Amir Khan showed huge interest in producing Mahabharata and producing it in the highest scale possible to take it to the level of a Lord of the Rings. We keep saying this because that becomes at some level a benchmark. Mukesh Ambani had shown interest, and there was going to be 1,000 crore pumped into that film. And as it is with mythology, I don't think it's easy to do this, and therefore all of them seem jinxed over a period of time. And nothing really came off that particular project that was pretty much there on paper, and I can say it from sources that I knew rather well at the time when we reported that particular story. That said, Sandeep, I think one needs to be very clear that at no point in time in our popular culture, screen entertainment, have these two particular mythologies, like both Ramayana and Mahabharata, ever left the screen. I mean, there's a whole cottage industry that came up in Naigaon, which literally just only produces one mythology after another mythological TV series. There's a company called Swastik Entertainment. That's all they used to do. I mean, the last time I went to Ayodhya was for the launch of yet another Ramayana, centered on Love Kush, and they'd done a huge launch for one of the TV stations. So television has always had one of the two playing and doing rather well on the ratings front. The issue is, but because the benchmarks are pretty low there, the issue is when you take it up to the big screen, it has to match with the best in the world. And I think we got close, but I don't know what happened to that particular Mahabharata of Amir Khan. I really hope it gets made at some point.
Sticker. And Mayank, don't forget that we met first on the sets of Akbar Khan's Taj Mahal 20 years back.
True.
20 years back, and that was a big budget film, and that didn't do too well either.
Film. I will never forget, Sandeep. There was one point where we were sitting there, and I think Akbar Khan was the director, and he's like sitting and figuring out how high should a particular fountain go, and that guy is barely there on the screen. So that's the level of effort they were putting in. Clearly nothing much happened to that particular movie as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still remember, Geeta, I must tell you this since we haven't discussed this earlier, the fact that Kabir Bedi was Shah Jahan in that film, and he put on this full costume and he came on just for a photo shoot. I mean, he was like a stickler for, he was a total professional. But Saurabh, coming back to present day and Project Ramayana, sticker shock, you think, over here, right? The fact that they've invested so heavily in this project, it looks like the big, budgets involved, big stars. Equally, we're hearing the kind of star cast that we haven't seen in a Hindi film in years. And yes, it's almost like a Pushpa kind of project. But you see this actually getting off the ground now, despite all these troubles that it's been having. And, let's not forget, there's no official statements yet, except that one statement of the producer being changed. But there's no formal announcement of the project yet. What's your forecast on this?
The project is going to take shape. It is going to That's for sure, because somebody who's been working for it for years,
yes,
it'll be extremely difficult for the person to just drop it.
Right.
Also, the thing is that these things become difficult for a producer also,
yes,
because geographically, when we look at it, or when we look at a ticket sales,
yes,
the film has to be a massive blockbuster to just break even.
yes,
and that's one of the problems of the, or I can say the hindrance in the project.
Right.
The second thing is, we've not yet mastered the art of creating seamless VFX.
Yes.
In spite of the fact that there's so many VFX studios,
right,
you will not get that finesse of a Dune in a VFX. So
yes,
I'm sure makers are trying to tackle that aspect as well. But when you equate that from dollars to rupees, the cost becomes extremely high.
Right.
So I guess these are some unforeseen or maybe foreseen problems of making a film for such massive scale. If you think that only if Indians watch it, the film will make money, it won't. So obviously the risks are higher, things are higher. So that's why I think it is taking time.
Risks are higher, things are higher. Thanks very much, Saurabh. We are completely out of time here, but Mayank, thanks for joining us. Saurabh, great to hear your thoughts on this. The Ramayana reboot that's facing starting trouble, as Geeta just mentioned, for various reasons. As Mayank and Saurabh have mentioned, the fact that VFX is a major issue and it has to be among the best. It has to compete with the likes of Lord of the Rings and Dune.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.